Good evening. Warm welcome on behalf of DoubleVerify and ETBE Brand Equity. Uh, Before we start the discussion for the day, and I know we want to have a sort of context setting done, but let's start with a small icebreaker sort of a situation where we all introduce ourselves. Uh, we say our names and we explain what we do in our respective organizations, and at the same time, as a consumer, like wearing the hat of the consumer that we are, we share one behavior that we have noticed have changed in us. So, for example, I'll start with myself. I'm Anirban Roy Chaudhary. I work as assistant editor at ET Brand Equity. I write about media advertising and marketing. A consumer behavior that has changed is, I don't swipe cards as much as I used to. I scan more QR codes. And now we'll start with you, Ishant, please.
Hi everyone. I'm Vishant. I lead digital at Nivea India, based off. I've been with the company now more than a year. Interesting behavior possibly is that I don't talk to people on WhatsApp anymore. I talk to them on Instagram.
Wow.
So I think it's like my friends is what I mean, because WhatsApp is also filled with work, and possibly so is Teams and Slack and everything else. So yeah.
Very interesting. Please, Anand.
Hi, my name is Anand Chakravarti. I head growth at Omnicom. It's a very fancy title, but it involves obviously growth and digital transformation and partnerships. So an interesting thing that's happened to me, I think I've stopped carrying cash for a very long time. And it can be embarrassing at times because if you don't have somebody who's willing to accept digital money, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, great. Vinod.
Hi, my name is Vinod Thadani, and I lead digital growth at Dentsu, and I also look into as the CEO of iProspect. I guess one change which has happened is I'm hooked on to across OTT platforms on content. I don't think so I'll ever visit a theater unless and until it's a big blockbuster. But everything is what I watch, everything on OTT platforms and other content.
Great. No wonder Netflix is showing ads now. Please.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Prasad. I manage a digital business in Kotak Life. As far as change is concerned, as a consumer, I think a lot of things have not changed for me yet. I think I am a new entrant in most of the digital things or most of the consumer behavior changes which are happening. I am new to OTT. I am new to UPI payments because I have not done UPI payment till last, I think, 4 months back.
Wow.
First transaction happened 4 months back. I still use credit cards, and so I have not changed much from that perspective. But everywhere I'm exploring, whichever thing is more beneficial to me as a consumer, I'm moving towards that rather than whatever is more convenient to me. So I'm still in that particular zone.
Great.
UPI, UPI, the biggest use case was that people, when we transfer the money and everything, people stopped giving me their account details, and that simply forced me to start using UPI.
Wow. This is already fun. Please go ahead.
Hi everyone. So my name is Gigesh. I head digital and e-com for Raymond Consumer. So one change in me, I mean, it should be for all, is I've stopped. I'm a cord cutter, so I've stopped watching any Tata Sky, any TV channels. Even if there is a serial which I want to watch, you watch it on the OTT. And I've subscribed to, I think, every OTT channel, every app which is available on, and we watch it on connected TV and phone. So that's the big change for me.
Great.
Hey everyone, this is Chintan. I head the tech and data at Madison. The biggest actually change that I have seen in last, I think, 1.5 year is that I've actually stopped interacting with customer care centers for most of the problems that I see. So I always basically do it on WhatsApp, and 95% of the time I avoid calling customer care, and things are getting done. So that's pretty interesting that everything is basically getting automated specifically from the conversational side and everything. So yeah, that's the change.
The bots got smarter. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Ashok from Pivot Roots. I lead media solutions at the agency. One of the change that I would say, actually, I'm seeing it in myself for last 2 years is probably I'm spending too much time browsing through things, which is trying to get to solve the problem of plenty.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's actually on a content that actually I'm watching on Netflix or Prime Video, or actually want to order food, or want to actually buy a thing online. So it's just trying to solve the problem to actually get through the problem of plenty and what to really buy or look or see is often actually where I think I as a consumer am seeing myself spending a lot more time. Maybe we should. There has to be some work done around it to solve for it. But I think Netflix is doing something around it. Surprise me on that way. Probably that's right. Insight probably getting there. That's what I would say.
Great. Continuing.
Hey, hi guys. I'm Sidhesh Kelkar. I head the prospecting and digital marketing for Aditya Birla Sun Life Insurance. The biggest change that I've seen is the number of fights which used to happen in the house for a remote control. That has gone down. Like last month, my dad came to me and he was like, "Siddesh, get me a subscription of Hotstar."
Mm-hmm.
Bola, why? I don't want to watch it on TV. I want to watch the serials and everything on my mobile phone. So wherever I am, I can actually on the go watch it. So that was a very big shift, turning point, which I saw. Like dad coming in and saying, I want to go on OTT and I don't want to watch things on TV.
So it's no longer just Gen Z being targeted
Yeah,
there. Jayati, please.
Hi everyone, thank you so much firstly for joining us today. It feels good to do this in person after 2 years. So I'm Jaiti, I work for DoubleVerify and I'm looking after sales for the West region. I think one of the biggest change in me as a consumer is that I just got a notification sometime back saying that I need to stop spending so much time on Swiggy.
Wow.
So I think not just me, but I think my parents as well. I remember my mom would refuse to buy an apple online saying that I don't trust the quality. But COVID times have changed that and I think now everything is bought online. So that's something that probably need to uninstall Swiggy.
Great. Moving to you.
Sent you a notification that don't spend so much time.
No, my phone sent me a notification saying that your time spent breakup and I thought it'll be on.
There's a problem between the phone and Swiggy. It has to be.
I actually thought that.
Somebody has not paid someone. Please.
No, I think perhaps all these changes I can see in myself, everyone spoke about. Hi everyone, I'm Nachiket. I'm from DoubleVerify, I lead India business for DoubleVerify. The change that I see, I agree with Jaiti. So I've stopped visiting Kirana stores. And I used to laugh at Blinkit 10-minute delivery promise, Instamart 10-minute delivery promise. But now I'll look up to them and I really appreciate कि 10 minutes से फर्क पड़ता है. I saw so many updates on LinkedIn when everybody said that यार 10-minute delivery या 12-minute delivery, 15-minute delivery क्या फर्क पड़ता है? But it means a lot when you want to buy, when you want a bottle of Coke, when you want a biscuit or a chocolate at that moment, you want it at that moment. And now it's available. So yeah, I mean, Instamart is like my go-to place now. And second interesting behavior, I will take a minute, is that I've seen from kids, every screen that they see, they feel that it's a touch screen. Right? Any screen that they go and they want to touch it. I have a MacBook Air and my daughter has her touch screen, whatever laptop, but she comes and she expects that every screen that comes in front of her is a touch screen. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Great. Today's topic of discussion is decoding digital advertising in attention economy. And I was reading up while preparing for this session and I saw a lot of reports about technological complexities. A headline read as alarming as is the attention economy being dominated by virtual eyeballs. There are places in India where labor cost is low. You have people interacting as computers, where in the Western world there are computers acting as bots and watching our videos. We have a great panel where custodians of brands are there, and you all have a great repository of money being spent on media every year. So it's great to have your perspective. Before we go deep, Nachiket, why don't you shed some light on the and set the context for this day?
Yeah, and I'll take 5 minutes. Apologies, my occupational hazard. I have to kind of talk about DoubleVerify, and I have some shameless plugins as well in between. But DoubleVerify, we started APAC operations about 5-6 years back, and Globally, I think we were the first verification company, started way back in 2010, 2011. And while we started our operations in APAC 5 years back, in India, we started about 3 years back. But globally, we were supporting the clients here. And during the pandemic, we had two options: whether we kind of look at the resourcing and crunch the resources, or we go all out and expand to the regions that we feel that the growth and potential is, and where the solution will matter the most. We chose the latter way, and which is working really well for us. I think in last 3 to 4 years now, APAC has more than 90 people across 4 offices. We have offices in India, of course, in Tokyo, in Sydney, and in Singapore. And that's how the story has been. What we do is we really want to ensure that the digital ecosystem is more safer, more secure, and more stronger. And when I say ecosystem, it's not only the advertisers, right? It's the agencies and it's the publishers as well, because we are part of the same ecosystem. And everybody, if the industry wins when everybody wins, right? And we do that in couple of ways. One is ensuring that the basic. Hi, Francis. Welcome and thanks everyone for your time. But we just done with a small icebreaker, and now
We'll go back to him. You can
I will go back to him.
finish it.
And I'm talking about DoubleVerify. Sorry, it's 5 minutes, right? And what we do is we measure brand safety, we measure viewability, we measure ad fraud, and we measure the in-geo delivery. And that becomes a baseline of quality media. And we've developed a metric called authentic ad, which gives or which qualifies every single impression across these 4 factors and give a baseline of media quality. And once that baseline is set, then the rest of the MarTech or ad tech stack can be built up upon it, so that what you feed in, what you get out, right? So if you're feeding in the right inventory, right quality, you're getting out the right output is what the philosophy is, right? And a couple of years back, we did a survey when pandemic hit in terms of shift in consumer behavior. We waited for a couple of years, and then recently this year, we again did a survey which is called 4 Fundamental Shifts in Advertising. And I'll share the copy with each of you after this. But there are 4 key learnings that came out of that report, right? One is how consumer behavior is changing, which we spoke about. And what strikingly came out differently is the consumption of videos or CTV. Globally, we've seen 54% growth in subscribing to streaming services, versus in India, the growth was 74%. Right? So 74% of the respondents mentioned that they've subscribed to a streaming service. And subscribed, it's a paid subscription, right? There are newer formats coming in, like TikTok, of course, is global phenomenon, but closer to India, you have stuff like ShareChat, you have stuff like Josh and others that are coming in big way. So, of course, the consumption is fragmented. The platforms come differently. They have their own different definitions of measuring success when it comes to advertising. So the need is to, of course, have a platform which can give you unified way of measuring the success in different KPIs, right? Because all the platforms are different, all the definitions are different, and all the success parameters are different, right? So that's another way. Also, when we look at the quality of the inventory, right? Almost less than 40% of the video impressions are qualified to be blocked globally, right? Because of multiple reasons, right? Because the app is not compliant, the inventory is not compliant for whatever reasons. Now, if less than 40% can be blocked, then you're still struggling with the 60% of your inventory, right? And you need a solution for that. So we developed something called as video filtering, with which now, even if the inventory at a source is not compliant, we can still filter that and we can still block that. It's slightly technical, so we can take it offline, but I'm just letting you guys know that you don't have to worry about the 60% of inventory which was not compliant anyways, right? Third thing that we saw is the growth of retail media, right? And as Jyoti was saying, a lot of others are saying, online commerce, right from grocery to cars, is growing. You all are aware of that. But not only that part, because of that, the platforms, e-com platforms are becoming big publishers, right? Be it Amazon, be it Flipkart, Closer, or Walmart's the way, right? Now, they have all the consumption behavior, the transactional behavior, but how do you leverage that data? Because of course it's a big walled garden. They're not going to open all the data points for you. Can you layer that with a little bit of contextual targeting and most of them are using DSPs somewhere or the other, right? So you can use now contextual targeting across the purchase funnel, right? From awareness to last transaction mile, and layer that with say retail media data so that you get now contextual presence as well as the right transacting audiences. And last but not the least, when we surveyed this group, right, we asked them how many ads do you see, right, on an average, and the number was astonishing. And we know, right, thousands of ads we get exposed to on a daily basis. Now, also interesting insight was the respondents said that if my ad or if any ad captures my attention in 5 seconds, then I probably will engage further with that. Now, with that, now viewability coming your way, all of you are investing big time on videos, right? You're measuring viewability, but viewability is going to tell you, say, 2 seconds time spent and 100% occupancy on the screen. But what happens after that, right? And that's where the attention comes into the place, and which is what a big product that we are working on, which is how do we go beyond the baseline quality? How do we build in more matrices which will be more meaningful for the advertisers and agencies, so that all the video investments that are going in can be measured in the right way, optimized in the right way, and the money that obviously everybody has finite money, so can be invested in the right manner. So measuring attention is the next big thing, because viewability after 2 seconds perhaps dies down, right? So what do we do after that? So these are a few things that came out very interestingly on this, and would love to hear more from you guys as we go forward. Over to you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nachiket, for laying the platform. Francis, I have another drill today. This time, while introducing yourself, you will have to give me one consumer behavior change that you have seen in yourself as a consumer.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Francis. I basically look after e-commerce and digital marketing at HDFC Life. And one consumer behavior change that I see is that initially when it was, your phone was not that crowded, you had a number of apps, and I used to always turn on notifications because for hope of not missing mail which would have come or something else. Over a period of time, I think it's such that the first thing I do once I download any app is to go and switch off all notifications.
Wow, it's fantastic. We have heard so many changes in consumer behavior, and that's where I would like to start the discussion today. You all make the most affluent cohort for any brand, and these consumer behavior changes that we are talking about are across the pyramid, from top to bottom. How are you dealing with it in terms of your media planning, and how is it actually influencing your marketing? Anand, we'd like to start with you.
So you're talking about general consumer changes?
Yeah.
So I think it's a nightmare for all of us, because just when you think you know the consumer, they go and do something that you didn't expect them to do. So I think the good part is that what we are seeing is that beyond, let's say, just Google and Meta, there are a lot of data ecosystems with Indian walled gardens are opening up.
Correct.
I think you're getting a lot more access to deterministic data, which is allowing you to then potentially be able to target consumers more effectively. It's early days. I mean, the fact is that 70-75% of budgets are still spent on Meta and Google.
Correct.
But I think the opportunity to really move away from more probabilistic signals to deterministic will come from walled gardens and working with them. And all of them have built now ad platforms. All of them are aggressively pushing it in the market. It will take time because you have to experiment, learn, and see whether it works for a category or a brand. We're all very used to the Google and Meta world. We're all used to benchmarks. We all have those tables. So the truth is that if you want to keep pace with consumers, then the kind of signals you use for planning have to improve, and therefore you'll have to test and experiment with more of these platforms.
Great, great. Vinod, you would like to add something? And please, everyone, let's keep it conversational. While we discuss a topic, let's keep adding value to the topic, and then we'll move to the next one.
No, I guess, like Andy mentioned, right? I guess whenever we try and say that, yes, we've understood the TG or the consumer which the brand actually wants to target, there are changes in the ecosystem, and we all are part of the ecosystem, and we know how the changes are happening. So I guess for us, it's very, very, very important and very clear, at least for our side, is how do we use the data-driven marketing or the correct signals when it comes to targeting these audiences. Also, we always try and understand how can I approach it on a full funnel basis, rather than only talking about an awareness or the last mile KPI, which we call as performance. I guess the other thing which we have also realized is, while we understand that there are walled gardens and they've always been and they'll always continue to be, and that's the fact. But there are other ways and means where we can target consumers of these walled gardens, and we know it all. We have different tools, we have got different partnerships which allow us today to target the transactional base of, let's say, e-commerce player or the SVOD audiences which we all want to target, right?
Correct.
So I guess it's all depends on answering to the objectives or KPIs which our clients have set it up for, and have a discussion with them. I think it's more or less at a discussion level, and once we understand that this is what the requirement is, we start the campaign. But I think the beauty of digital, unlike other media, is you can keep optimizing. You don't have to send an arrow and wait till your campaign ends and then you come back and say, okay, I've got it right or I've got it wrong. You keep optimizing, you keep having the dialogue open with your client and see how and where are we currently, at what status it is. I guess the third thing which is there is the kind of the new things which are coming out as publishers. So the short format video, of course, TikTok was one of them, but the short format videos, the influencers, content into commerce is a big thing. And that's where we are also seeing that, new performance matrix could be coming in. So I guess these are some of the points.
Very interesting points actually, and we'll come back to them. Especially the one from engagement to conversion, all happening across the same platform. From the brand's perspective, Francis, how is this changes? We mentioned many changes in consumer behavior. How are they actually changing the conversation that you have with maybe Vinod or Anand?
So I think 2-3 things. One, insurance being a product where a specific life stage really matters. I think now it's increasingly possible to start reaching people who are, what we could call as not necessarily in market, but at those critical stages in their life where they're making those big decisions, right? So insurance usually is a big decision, right? You first job, you buy it for, say, tax saving. You get married, you kind of don't change your nominee from your, parent to your wife, but you'd rather take a second policy. Childbirth, again, very important kind of life stage where you really find somebody completely dependent on you financially. Retirement or close to retirement is another. Death of an immediate parent, either your parent or your spouse's parent, is a third. Now, this was usually the holy grail, saying that, okay, how do you kind of reach people who are in that stage in time, right? So some of those avenues have started slowly opening up to kind of figure out this thing without necessarily intruding on people. I think that's one big change in how data is moved. The second is, I think, on creativity. I mean, I think both Google and Meta have told us how to dynamically optimize your creative. How should the face appear in the first 2-3 seconds, and it should occupy this much of your screen and everything else. And then you go back saying that, okay, when as a consumer I've seen these ads or people seeing these ads, do they still remember this? Do they still remember me after and won't everything also look similar if we keep doing this, right? So I think that's the other challenge which is coming up, and which interestingly is something interesting to solve in for especially formats like mobile, which are becoming increasing.
Great. Mr. Prasad, you would like to add something?
Yeah. So the biggest change I would say from the customer perspective is the availability of the content. See, earlier what was happening that the content availability was limited and the platforms were also limited. Even in the digital world, when we all started, we all started with those limited content formats and limited content platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have so much of content, and it is available on so many platforms. The amount of choice or the kind of choice consumers have today, that is too much. It is too much for even consumers to digest. They move from a video content or text content to infographic content second by second, correct? That's what is happening right now. Too much of content.
Correct.
Now, challenge is earlier we used to work on cohorts and segments, that a particular customer in a particular age group, Francis talked about a customer in a particular life stage, used to work on all those cohorts and assume that customer in those cohorts will react to my communication which I have created for those cohorts. Now what is happening, because of the so much of content which is available, consumers are having their own preferences. In the same cohort of age group and life stage, I might consume a content which is data based and video led, whereas another customer in the same cohort will prefer something which is more creative, more engaging, less data, maybe in a infographic format, maybe in another format, and that creates the challenge for marketeers and also creates some opportunity. So segment, and on top of it, not just their interests but their archetypes, how they are looking at things overall, that has started creating a differentiation. So many a times earlier we used to do some campaign, some communication to a particular segment, we used to quickly get the results out of it. We used to define KPIs, okay, this is what we should get out of it. We used to get it. Now what has happened, a particular campaign works, same campaign in same cohort sometimes doesn't work.
Correct.
That experimentation has gone to a level where we are not having enough insights now that which content is working on which cohort, and we are also not understanding is it working all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Whatever we do, top of the funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel, or full funnel we talked about, we get different results all the time. The predictability of campaigns has gone down, and attention, yes, from that perspective, when I talk about attention, I always believe there was always a challenge with grabbing customer attention. With limited platforms, the challenge was lesser, but now with so many platforms, the challenge is bigger. But again, if your communication is engaging enough, will it get the attention? Still, you might not get the attention if you have not reached a certain frequency in the consumer's mind. You might need to, earlier we used to think that across the platform, 2 frequencies is good, 3 frequencies is good, correct? That's what we all used to look at the norms. But now we have started realizing that sometimes even 7, 8 frequencies is also not working. We might need to go for higher frequency for him to just notice our communication. So those are the challenges which are happening because of the content ecosystem explosion which has happened in last couple of years.
Great. Vishant, you would like to add something like how is the consumer behavior actually influencing your media planning?
So I think 2 parts to it. One is knowing your consumer. I think that's the most important aspect of what will consistently possibly keep you aware or engaged of whether you're making the right decisions or not. I think that's the one part that makes a very big difference. And also being able to differentiate your consumer versus your shopper, because I think that does create a difference as you go lower in the funnel. So how do you understand, how do you differentiate the two? Of course, there is quite an overlap there. You would expect it to be. But how do you segment the two so that you're making the right media choices, and depending on your objectives from a funnel perspective, where you stand, what kind of difference it makes. I think that's one very critical aspect that we use, where we try to build more and more around, are we reaching the right consumers, are we reaching the right shoppers?
Correct.
That's point one. The other thing is, it's important enough to also, I think, stay hyper connected. Because I think eventually, as we are all hyper-connected, so is advertising, so is consumption of advertising as well, be it through influencers or any other sources. If consumers are hyper-connected, it's not like you will always be in a situation where you'll only pick one platform and you'll think that's it. You have to think multimedia. Even in today's world, it's just about, I would say, optimizing eventually to platforms that work for you. But for example, I don't think the discussion in today's times, at least, it's no longer a discussion, oh, should we do digital or should we not? I think it's within digital, what do you do? What do you spend most of your money on, and what do you further optimize? So, and fundamentally speaking, starts from who your consumer is. So I think that's just one.
Good point. Good point. Jigesh?
So I would like to just take the clue from what Prasad has been talking about, how the campaigns are getting more challenging in terms of how these personalization, or we call it precision marketing, is not really working out. And I would say, I won't say that, but it's getting more and more challenging as we go. So one thing which we have been trying out at Raymond's also and previously is kind of getting to moment marketing and slowly getting ourselves out of segmentation. So imagine about we have a brand Kama Sutra, which is I won't get into the moments which is available over there, but that's a very exciting brand to work on when we have to figure out the kind of moments where those not just segments but the moments where are not even live events. What are those real moments where the brand will be most relevant to that consumer? Figure that out and hence go behind them. And it's still in the testing stage, I would say, where the brand itself is new when it comes to digital. So this is the kind of pilots we are doing. So we also tried out a lot on in terms of segmenting our consumers versus not just live events, in market, affinity, interest segments, different cohorts. All that has been worked out. We still do that. But I believe the real-time marketing is going to be the next game for us, and you don't have to plan for it. You just need to. You can't even plan really. What moments you're going to talk about. You just need to define them, get the right creative and the right message over there, and you have to wait for it. When that moment happens, obviously your consumers will be more interested in the brand, and that's a try.
Correct. Real-time actionable insights is what you look at. Chintan, please.
So I'll just take the discussion ahead what Gigesh just said. I mean, actually look at if you just dial back 10 years before, like we started planning digital media on the cohort basis, interest based, affinity based, etc., etc. But I think advertising is the only space where humongous amount of data is available, right from impression to the final conversion happens. All right. So I think machines are getting more smarter over the period of time, and there is less emphasis on selecting whom to target. Instead, there is a lot more emphasis that what is the end result that you want from the from your campaign. Is it the brand awareness that you are chasing? Is it consideration that you're chasing? Just give that as a target. Forget everything else in terms of what should be my input targeting, what should be my campaign duration, what should be my bids, budgets, etc. That is basically taken care by machines these days, and it is getting smarter as we speak. In fact, because I actually lead a lot on the tech and the data side of it. Copywriting is the only thing which I thought machine would not be able to do as good as human. But we are trying some some open AI kind of stuff at Madison, and the kind of output that we actually get from this AI engines are probably 10x better than what humans can write in terms of you can't even think of that copy because technically it has ingested entire Wikipedia in it, and then it actually produces the content. So I think from the planning side, it is mainly about knowing your business better than actually knowing about digital media, because machines will do most of the stuff that we are used to do these days. That's what I think. Yeah.
Great. My job is at risk. Please go ahead, Ashok.
I think like what Chintan was mentioning, I think chat GPT is the new craze. I think probably doing on the similar lines. Correct. You could probably plug into it and probably could have really well crafted copies come out eventually and be able to talk. Maybe has to be humanly vetted somewhere, but some interest.
Okay, thank you. I have my job. Yeah, please continue.
So beyond that, I think a lot of folks spoke about funnel, and what we do see also is in a trend that nowadays consumers are not following in a linear pattern. Yeah. Right from awareness to consideration, and eventually they'll probably go and transact. It's they probably move back and forth. Not actually in a very systematic phase. They're gonna go and just after seeing an awareness ad and probably then look at consideration and probably action for it. So we as a brand, I think a lot of folks also spoke about being agile, being there in moment marketing. is in a maybe need of ours also. Like, how do you really make that connection with the user? Even if you have shown him an awareness ad, maybe you might need to probably reach to him twice or thrice until
Correct.
really he's out of that phase for it. Yeah? Till he is in market looking for different options, that means he's still not settled on to one of the brand for it. So our planning has to also factor that into in that way for it. And obviously, with a lot of platforms been talked about it, how do you really plan for it rather than actually planning only for the walled gardens? Some of the walled gardens actually are giving you that seamless connectivity to other places that actually people could be. So you're planning it unifiedly, while one wall garden will always be in a really capped. You can't really penetrate that much, but at least you can work with one of those gardens and actually make it your media campaigns actually more effective by having it more inclusive platforms into it within that fold.
Great, great. Mr. Siddesh?
I think there is a lot which people have talked about. One thing which I feel is so there are multiple books in this entire world, and everybody likes a different book. It could be that same consumer or same cohort or same, I would say, mindset of consumers might like different set of stories. So one thing which is very important is how are you telling the story?
Correct.
Because there are multiple people who are there sitting to either listen to a story or read through a story. Some people might like to read through it. Some people might only like to listen to it. So how are we doing it? That's very important. Are we using machine learning and AI to do it, or are we just trying to figure out a way wherein manually we can create a lot of content and just give it to the user and say, you choose what you want to.
Correct.
If I telling you ki this is the right thing for you, you decide what is right for you. Because that's how I think we do it when we go into a library. The librarian doesn't tell us ki what story to read. Rather, we decide what we want to read.
Correct.
I think that is one thing which everybody's not talking about. Everybody's just saying कि तू वो पढ़ जो मैं चाहता हूँ. Rather, तुझे क्या पढ़ना है मुझे पढ़ी नहीं है. So that kind of a thing is something which needs to be defined properly, and I think that one thing can bring some kind of a change if at all we think from that point of view.
Okay. Okay, Netflix decides what you watch. You have heard the consumer behavior changes and the challenges that they have mentioned. Your 2 bits on analyzing on how to navigate through this changing world.
So I think these guys are experts, right? We come from a platform which helps the brands and the agencies to see through the data, which may not be visible upfront, right? So we know that we live in walled gardens, right? The programmatic space itself is a black box, right? You don't know. The basic question is मेरा ad किधर चला, and मुझे पता ही नहीं मेरा ad किधर चला, right? So
मेरा ad दिखता ही नहीं.
मुझे मेरा ad नहीं दिखता है, कहाँ चला पता नहीं, कहाँ पैसा गया पता नहीं, right? So I think we as a platform or a tool at disposal, what we do is we help integrate these platforms and bring alive data which can help them make informed decision, right?
Correct.
So a lot of times, at a SSP level, when you're running programmatic campaigns, you don't know what kind of inventory you're buying, right? So tools like us can give you more visibility into that. It gets into more granularity in terms of like what was my auction domain versus what was my delivery domain, right? So things like that. Now that helps bringing more clarity, which builds more confidence in your investments, right? And if you're confident in what you're investing in, you'll be more prone towards delivering better ROI for your brands, right?
Correct.
And that's what tools and technologies enable the brands and agencies to do.
Correct. Jayati, you would like to add?
All points taken. But I think what I observed and understood is that from Prasad's point of view, rightly so, as a marketer, his focus is how can he grab the attention of the consumers. And today, the end user has so many channels where they can consume content. It's even more difficult to grab their attention. From Vinod's point, from the agency standpoint, you want to be able to get optimization opportunities while the campaign is ongoing, right? When we talk about BLS studies or panel discussions, this all is once the campaign is over. Our industry is constantly evolving, and what we have observed is that, I mean, 2 years back we were talking about privacy regulations, and today we're talking about cookie depreciation. So while there are so many changes in ever evolving industry, how can I grab the attention of my user the most? And I think from a media planning standpoint, we all need to start looking at KPIs beyond the traditional ones, right? We can't be just talking about clicks or viewability anymore. To me, my ad viewability may be hitting skyrocket, but the user may not even be seeing it. So we need to start talking more about metrics like engagement, metrics like exposure, which go beyond and help me identify and get engagement of my user across where they are. And in this way, we can automatically move away from wall gardens and focus on your audiences more than the supply partners. So I'm glad to see that today we're not talking about whether it's required or not, but we're understanding how do we do this.
Great. Great. Interesting points, Jayati. Before we move on, let's have the introduction round once more. So it's a small drill. You basically introduce yourself, explain what the role that you play in your company very briefly, and then the interesting part actually is you summarize one consumer behavior that you have seen changing in yourself.
I'm Yogin Vora. I head the Z5 Global Digital Marketing entirely 360 degree. The one consumer behavior which we have seen, I'm talking about OTT, right? OTT behavior during the lockdown. Consumption of OTT is super high. And from there, now we are getting out of lockdown and the international markets really reacting in a different way. So that kind of a behavior of consumption pattern of your VVs falling down and linear also taking a dip in US and the markets, and how that US linear is also attributing to other partners like Netflix and all and getting new ad supported models.
Correct.
The picture, the dynamics are changing so fast after COVID right now because the people have realized now they don't need SWOT anymore. Now they have to get into different dynamics of business. So that is one of the bigger consumer change when people are ready to accept about ads. And now accepting ads with your content is something which is going to be the way we are seeing in next half decade growth, which is going to happen in the increase in the supply side of video as well. So, yep, that's from my side.
Great, great. Ad free, the USP will no longer be there, I think, in OTT ads from now.
Though I strongly believe in SWOT as such, because SWOT is something I personally, being a digital marketing guy, I feel like I should not be watching any ads. But
That doesn't bring in money though.
Interesting, very interesting. And it's a great time that you come in because my next question is about brand safe environment, and I'm sure that's where you want to, have a say. But Anand, like we mentioned, so many intervention of technology where human oversight is minimal, and we even talked about writing scripts probably through AI. How do you know that your ads are actually landing on a brand safe platform and actually a human eye is weaving through them?
I think technology is catching up. I think the challenge with fraud is that as much as more money gets pumped into digital, there's always going to be a dark side and a white side, right? And there's always money to be made by indulging and building technology to beat fraud, and that's why that world is always going to proliferate.
Correct.
So I think platforms like yours will definitely be the first step. I think the good part is that there's a lot more conversation about brand safety today. I think ad fraud, I don't see as much of conversation. I think ad fraud, to my mind, is probably the industry's best kept dark secret. Everybody talks about it. There are reports that it's down to 0.5%, which is completely bullshit. Can't be. It's not possible, right?
Correct.
And I think that the fact is that if you want to, we all talk about ROI, right? Whether you're on the client side or whether you're on the agency side. But I think it's going to take a lot more effort to keep pace with, fraudulent impressions and platforms that deliver that. And you'll have to keep revisiting the solutions that you have. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution says, okay, you implement this and everything is done. Okay. You have to keep reviewing it all the time because as much as you improve your stack to keep and ensure that you're buying the right kind of impressions, there'll be another side which is always trying to create platforms and sources that will sell you bad impressions, right? And the battle will continue. And it's up to us as an ecosystem to be aware of it and keep being proactive about improving solutions for it.
Great. From client side, Francis, is that Is that something that's keeping you awake at night? Like if your inventory, that it's quality inventory, if it is brand safe, the environment that you are exposing your brand to?
No, it is. And let me start by this part, right? I mean, I think there will be increasing sort of customer, you know, uh, they'll be less and less tolerant about
Okay.
things which are out of place. I mean, you saw that in consumer journeys, right? As in initially in the early days of consumer journeys, etc. If something is not working or a button click doesn't work, etc., there was some frustration. People still kind of went ahead. The bar of excellence kind of kept going higher and higher. And it doesn't matter whether you're an insurance company or you're a bank or whatever else. You'll always be measured to the same level as, say, somebody who does this, and has been born doing this, like commerce or like any other apps. The same thing you don't see today on marketing messaging, but it will soon catch on. So today, if you have, say, a publisher, newspaper or somebody else kind of going ahead and publishing something which was a spoof and calling it a news or whatever else, right? And you suddenly have that getting retweeted and stuff. And this will get, I mean, people will get more and less and less tolerant about not safe, brand safe messages. So while now suddenly, I mean, because of some you forgot to exclude some cohort or audience, and all your brand gets your ad gets shown somewhere. I mean, maybe somebody says, "Ye kya hai?" They'll move and they'll probably ignore it. There'll be a time when they will no longer ignore it, but they'll start poking fun at it. So I think that time will come. Just like with journeys, I think we'll start moving in that direction. And at that point of time, everything that prevents ad fraud and all will become even more important than it is today.
Correct. Okay.
So I think that's with regards to safety. The other element is basically just ROI. And even the walled gardens, Google, Meta, etc. started moving to return on ad spends and everything else. So ultimately, I think there will be other metrics also to measure ROI. But I think brand safety and consumer intolerance of just misplaced communication, bad communication, I think those pieces will be higher.
Vinod, your response to it? What he's saying?
So I would want to break this up into three parts, right? You're an ecosystem today. I have seen, as digital advertising, media mix changes, as clients start investing more and more on digital, they've also understood that there are these kinds of tech companies like DoubleVerify and other people who are doing the right thing by doing the brand safety, the ad fraud tools right in front.
Correct.
Because the kind of wastage which used to happen before for the media dollar invested, that would be maybe 10x times more than the fees or the tech fees which currently we are supposed to pay for these tech integrations which we need to do for taking the campaigns live. So clients have evolved. They've understood this, that even at a minimal cost, you get good quality inventory. And when they have to compare it with, initially they never used to pay, you never used to know what percentage of your media investments is wasted. So that's from the client side. I have seen personally clients investing, asking, saying that what's the kind of things which we need to do. The second thing is an onus from an agency side as well. So we also need to make sure that we partner with the right properties today, where we are secured and say that, okay, we have third-party partners which will make sure, enable that we have the right kind of ad placements and the right kind of properties with the right context.
Correct.
The third thing is from the publisher side also, because at the end of the day, it's a responsibility from an ecosystem. It can't be only from one angle. The publishers have also realized that there are tech tools, and hence we need to also be careful.
Correct.
I think over here, the safest, according to me, is the OTT platform.
Yeah.
Because I have never heard, 99.5% it's all brand safe content. Right? But when it comes to an open platform, this is where we'll need these third-party tech companies to tell us, invest in them, so that we do the right kind of targeting, the right kind of inventory for the brands. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I would like.
You want to add something, Nitin?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Vidi, for vouching about that. But couple of points from both Francis and Viti. One is, I agree totally. OTTs are the safest, speaking upfront, but not necessarily that is the case, right? Because and it's not only about OTTs; it's about any destination, right? It can be TOI, for example, right? It's a great brand safe platform, but tomorrow, if any article which comes their way, it's a news article, right? So as a platform, they have to publish it, but not necessarily that news article will resonate with your brand ethos or your policies, right? So it can be about war, it can be about um, it can be about any abuse, it can be about drugs, it can be about anything, right? Where you don't want to be present on that piece of article, not necessarily on that platform, right? Nothing wrong with the platform, but something is wrong with that piece of article where you don't want to be present. So you need to drill a bit down and look at actual content and not really just look at the destination as a whole. So any OTT, yes, by default is a great, most brand safe platform, but do all the programming within that will be brand safe? May or may not, right? So we call it brand suitability because for some brands it will be suitable, for some brands it may not be suitable.
Correct.
So it's brand safe is one terminology, brand suitability is another terminology, right? So that's one part, and as Francis rightly said, right, it's I remember, or all of us will remember our earlier days. We lost sleep. कोई call करता था publisher used to call, hey, I saw your ad on this content, right? Because it was their tactic to get money from the other platforms, right? I saw your ad on some shitty content, right? Now you move the money. That place has been taken over by so-called influencers now, right? Any wrong placement is now can escalate to any level. So I was talking to one of the tech brands, CM of one of the tech brands, global tech brands. Some brand placement happened in some wrong article. Somebody took a screenshot of it, tweeted it to the global MD, and the hell broke down right after that. So it's now we're so vulnerable across these content ecosystem. Every second, different kind of content is being churned out. You don't have control over that. No publisher can control content at this scale, at this velocity, and this granularity. So, and that's where the challenge comes in terms of how do we mitigate that risk, and that's where, as Chintan earlier said, machine learning, AI, as well as human intelligence will kind of play a big role in that.
Great. You heard about the conversation, Vishant. Can you address it? I mean, like this challenge of your brand ending up on a content that's probably not relevant to what you do.
I think this also comes back to the point around how the kind of messaging that you build needs to be. You need to think through the messaging, whether what you communicate or what you eventually land up on. Of course, one part of it is brand safety, but I think apart from that, also being very clear that the messaging needs to be not in any way, I would say, derogatory or not fitting the kind of content that you create. I think having that creative content filter, of course, backed by the right kind of machine learning, AI, as that evolves is going to be very, very important. I think the role of messaging will continue to play out. And the other thing I think of is also even data privacy, right? Like today, brand safety data privacy is pretty much something that a brand needs to take care of. And a lot of brands are evolving and trying to move into that ecosystem as well if they've not already.
Correct.
I think data privacy will continue to play a big role in terms of consumers being very, very particular about the information they share. Possibly not, but that's again just a space that I think will continue to be.
Yogin, you heard about the publisher role that needs to be played.
So, more than publisher, I will say, I thanks PT for that. Trust in OTT that way. But I come from a background of understanding where brand safety came in, right? We, as a brand custodian, everyone used to just focus on communication at early stages. That this is a brand safe environment. This is a communication we have to. From there, we have evolved into digital now. So once we start evolving right now, brand safety has been determined by walled gardens at the beginning, right? Then we are rest assured that everything is safe. Then the partners came into the picture, third party. They said, okay, this is not right. Search is also not doing a right environment. This is not in the right environment. Then the marketers were just like not able to handle it, because all of a sudden everything what we were doing before, all of a sudden things have started to change. What you rightly said, Nachiket, about how the articles like breaking news, that is something for a worrisome for a brand where I worked with before life insurance, and all of a sudden, okay, my article is here connected to politics or anything else. So for a brand safety environment, that was a thing. For publishers, for me as an SWOT guy in OTT, for me, it's about my content is about entertainment, and it's the largest cohort of audiences available across any of the markets in that way. For us, we want to sell people at a particular right spot when they're watching about the right content and entertainment. They're not watching about news or anything else. So for me, brand safe is something where I know my video views would be properly played. It's everything is safe environment over there. They are not watching some different kind of a content which is more aggressive or something like this. So that kind of a perspective I've realized in brand safety, that walled garden has made a rule, and now other partners are changing the rules the way they want, but we also fall under AIB norms and other norms. So I think everything got brought together. Every marketer has to work towards making sure that in the digital ecosystem, a billion of impression has been served in a minute or two. There, where are we actually showing our ads? It's not only responsibility of a one day, but it's 365 days and billions of impressions, and we have to evaluate that way. So it's too much of grinding of numbers and data.
Great. Prasad.
How I look at it from the brand safety perspective is the tagging of the content. See, what happens generally that the entire problem starts when the content is not properly tagged. Correct? We all know that from the brand safety perspective, we need to exclude certain keywords. Okay, these keywords are not appropriate or the suitable for my brand, what Nachiket was mentioning about. That tagging for the entire content ecosystem is not sufficient as of today. So somewhere it has to be worked upon, because otherwise what happens, whatever we do, because generally whatever technology we add will depend upon the proper data capturing. If the data capturing itself is incorrect, then it will cause the challenge. And that's what we are currently suffering from. What Nachiket also mentioned about, he gave the example of Times of India, that the content which is getting published on Times of India, if it is correctly and appropriately tagged, then it's far easier for brands to take a control over it. That okay, certain things I am excluding as keywords, it is properly tagged, I won't be shown there. I am pretty sure about it. And I am very much sure that the larger digital ecosystem, the Google ecosystem, they must have taken these things, because generally we don't find too many complaints about it. But when we go a bit direct in our approach, we directly work with some of the publishers and partners, we do face those challenges because they might not have invested time and money and energy in tagging all the content appropriately. That's how I look at it from the brand safety perspective. And second thing is, again, the contextual. One tagging is from the negative keywords perspective. Second tagging is from the contextual perspective. What that entire content is all about. And if I need to be present in a contextual content, I would like to see that tagging somewhere in the system, in the ecosystem. Then I can decide, these are the negative, these are the positives. Let's go ahead with this entire thing, and I am assured that it will be safe. That's how I look at it overall.
Okay. Jigesh, is it not a big problem when you are relying on somebody else to tag the content correctly for you to be, appearing on a brand safe environment? You are too dependent on somebody else.
It's going pretty slow. So my belief will be, and it is that you're not 100. Whatever you do, you're never going to be 100% safe. So there will be some margin of error or some issues going to happen. It's all about how prepared as a brand you are to face that when that happens, and you have to, and the trust factor you have to build in on the publishers. So all these, why we are talking about brand safety is because of instances which happened with the larger platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And I believe they themselves have now realized if that happens with, it's a brand imagery, not just for the brand, and also if it happens on YouTube, it's bad for them too. Hence the tagging and all those measures which these publishers and brands has to take, that will happen, on eventually. And it's just not about, being brand safe, it's about how make sure your the placement is correct, and your targeting is correct, so that you and some measures, like for example, we didn't in my previous company, whenever I used to take news as a content at all, be it OTT, be it Times of India, for example, was kind of, we never took Times of India news section, and we made sure that at least that's one way, and I'm brand safe there. Even if I go to social media platforms, there is no way to do that, 100%. So believe, okay, we did the right things. If things didn't happen, and if there are one or two instances to go wrong, that happens. For example, you can even change your website HTML code. You go behind it, change the entire image, take a screenshot. What does that happen? That happened with me, one of my earlier
Absolutely.
brand. Somebody changed my entire website and posted it on social media. And so that if that happens, you just need to be prepared that how do you now handle it. You make sure you have your policies, your crisis management things, and who will handle the influencer, social agencies who's going to handle that. Make sure all that is correct, and
Correct.
that's a way to be safe, rather going on, make sure the brand safety measures are there, and you have your tools now. DoubleVerify is there and other tools available to do that also help you out traditionally, but be yourself first. Make sure you're doing the right things.
Correct.
Also, not just being brand safe, if you make sure your targeting is correct, and that's, for me, that's more important than being brand safe, because eventually you need people to get onto your assets and platforms. If that quality audience is coming in, that's being a surety for me that at least I reached out to the right audience. I may get placed at a wrong place even at one point, but that's the game I have to play.
Chintan?
Yeah, so I'll just take the cue of what Nachiket has mentioned specifically in Indian ecosystem. See, if you actually ask a question saying that, are you really concerned about brand safety? Probably 8 in 10 would say, yes, I'm actually concerned. But if you ask a question, are you actually taking some action? Only, 2 people will say, yes, I'm taking action. So the point I'm making is that approach towards brand safety in India, specifically from advertiser side, is more reactive than proactive. And I would like to ask Nachiket, how is it actually in other global markets? But the moment you show some sort of proof of coding, like there are like placement level reports you can actually access across all the DSPs that you are running, and most of the time this incidence happens when you run it on open auctions. So the moment you actually show them saying that this is where, all these are the placements where your ad was actually shown, and out of that, let's say 20% were bad placements. And it actually literally, opens their eyes and say that, okay, tomorrow, I want to start brand safety measures literally from tomorrow. So, one is that, to large advertisers, we need to show more of their reports, their own reports, than just the general stats saying that X percentage of the ad fraud or X percentage of the impressions getting served in the non-suitable environment. So point number 1 is that. Second is that in Indian advertising ecosystem, it is a lot more ROI driven. Every time we need to prove, saying that if you are investing a certain amount of money outside your media spends, how is it actually helping in your ROI metric? And there are actually a lot of ways you can actually access a person who has actually seen your full ad versus a person who has actually seen only half the ad. What is the actually uplift that you're getting in your conversion metrics? So those kind of, I think, metrics will help penetrate this entire brand safety more in Indian ecosystem. Yeah, ad ecosystem.
Great. I'll come to you with the question that he has asked for you. But before that, he has given us a question. Are you actually doing enough about brand safety? Is what he said, and then let me ask you that question. He said 2 out of 10 will say yes, they are doing something.
So, luckily, a lot of these platforms that we are investing heavily today are building their own solutions.
Correct.
So it's quite easy, and probably at no cost, probably brands are adopting this. And most of our buys that we'll do for clients probably will go through that. But I will probably just take a little sort of step away from the question.
Please.
Probably, look at ad verification from a slightly different lens. I think a lot of folks spoke about maybe brand safety, content placement being of really utmost importance. But if I had to look at it, ad verification, probably it should become a lot more inclusive, is what I feel. It has to be, whether your ad was in brand safe environment or not, whether it was viewed by human or non-human is important. But was it actually seen by right demographic that you intended to go after? Yeah, as in a brand, was it shown to the right audience that you intended to go? Maybe a lot of folks spoke about life events being used, affinity being used, and how do you really decode this? How do you really define this? And how do you really then verify it? Let's say if Google is telling me, okay, they can actually help me tap XYZ audience, but is it actually really the XYZ audience that I have reached or not? How should we really go about validating it? One is that. And then who should be doing it? Is it the platform themselves who is creating these terminologies and audiences? Should they be led to do it? Or there has to be an independent platform that is able to do it? Yeah? And how eventually? Because it's equally important. Let's say somebody, Google and Facebook might say, we do have ad verification in place. Right? But how does it really work? It should be open, it should be scrutinizable, and it should be something that we all can validate. Not just being told by someone and it works is something that we then keep repeating to our clients. And so, there has to be that kind of, clarity and visibility for all as a brand and agency folks for it. And why? I think Chintan spoke about it. A lot of times actually it's maybe good thing to do, but actually if you're able to contextualize why, you are maybe going to lose so much of money, probably you can deploy this money elsewhere and probably you can improve ROI. That validation has to be there. Maybe data that really shows, supports that visualization, or maybe really things that we can not really look and feel, but at least I can actually look and actually justify, okay, these investment probably I was doing was actually going all bad. Now I can take this money and put it somewhere else. Yeah? So I think those actually what, how, why, and has to be answered from ad verification tool also for it. And I think that's actually where the marketers, agencies, platform needs to take that path for it.
Correct. Who should verify it? Nachiket, you have to answer this question.
No, but valid questions. And I would come to your point first, Ashok, when you mentioned platforms building their own solutions, right? Agree, and that is the basic necessity for any platform to do that, right? But honestly speaking, we know what's happening with walled gardens, right? You can't grade your own homework, right? I can come today and I can say that we are the best, but are we the best? Not necessarily, right? So you can't grade your own homework. B, when platforms partner with the tools, they know that there is a specialist company who is helping them on this, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't partner. It's not their business, right? Their business is different. Their energy is just focused on maximizing value with the business and not really the other part, which can be taken care of by the partners. So how do we kind of help them navigate this space despite of all the efforts that they're doing? So we would have all seen what happened with Twitter even before Musk took over, right? Just maybe a couple of months back when the ads were shown against child pornography content, right, on child pornographic pages. In today's age, this is still happening with a company like Twitter, right? We see day in, day out, we are weeding out a lot of non-brand safe inventory across social platforms, including Google, Facebook, Snap, any other platform, right? We're weeding it out. So that's the fact, that's the reality. And coming to Chintan's point,
Globally,
totally,
the challenges are same.
Totally, it's like everybody talks about it, everybody wants to do it, but it's no longer 2 out of 10. It has moved to maybe 4, 5 out of 10.
5 out
It was 2 out of 10 a couple of years back when I joined. I think now everybody has come to the terms that this is a baseline responsible marketing, right? And B, there are enough data points that we can provide to define the ROI, as Ashok and you were also saying, right? How much of my inventory is going waste? How much can I block? How much can I replow in the right platforms? Enough case studies are there, and not only about the last click attribution, but also your brand lift studies, right? So we work very closely with Kantar, Nielsen, and we have seen that a quality inventory has delivered better brand uplift, right? And the percentage point that we've seen are not small, right? They're 9 percentage point, 10 percentage points that have been delivered. So right from your convergence, where we have case studies on, to your awareness campaigns where enough data points are available as a case study for us. But all I want to say is, right, as agencies and clients, it's critical to take the first step, right? It's critical to experiment, and as Vinod earlier mentioned, right, the cost of investing in tools like this is nowhere close to the media wastage that will happen eventually. That's one part of it. Second part is, look at the reputation the brand is struggling against with, right? You have pumped in millions of dollars over the years to build the brand reputation, and one or two wrong brand placements will tarnish all of that, right? And you never know when that will happen. It will only take one bad impression to kind of get into that soup. So what is at stake is something that we need to evaluate.
Correct. Another question that Chintan had asked, and I'd like to bring you, Siddesh, here, is that does that brand safe or quality inventory take a back seat when you are actually chasing ROI and KPIs are being delivered? In what happens in those cases? Do you then not call up the person, say, you know what, it's not brand safe environment, why are we there?
So I think last 15-20 minutes, brand safety as a word, suddenly okay, brand safety, it's a very big word. But if we take a step backward and try to understand what are we trying to do at this point of time, we are trying to target a user and not a content that the user is browsing. We're in that particular world where gone are the days where we used to make campaign basis the content which the user was browsing. Right now I'm saying that I want to target a user who is in a particular cohort or in a particular segment. And if that user is getting targeted properly, what is the problem? In fact, the person who shares that screenshot saying that, hey, you're not, you're actually not in a brand safe environment, we just need to first understand whether that user is part of our cohort or not. And if actually is part of our cohort, then the marketer should be rewarded, rather than you getting into a situation where you're like, why did you show the ad there? Because we targeted you as a user and not the content which you're browsing. So that's one point. 15 years back, if we go when TV and print and everything was being where we used to advertise, at that point of time, where is the television kept? Is it kept in the house where the family is watching, or is it kept in some bar, shady bar, where you're going to have a drink and then watch that ad? Nobody used to ask that question. So we as marketeers, sometimes I feel that rather than finding answers to those set of questions where like brand safety, is my brand in that right safe environment or not, we need to have those kind of data in place that yes, I am targeting that right user in that right place, and somewhere we need to take that stand and say that if somebody from the management is asking that question, see, this is what the entire good thing about digital is, that it's trackable, and I am tracking the user from my point of view, and I'm doing the right thing. If at all brand safety is a concern, I have made sure that the right set of things are in place. So I want to be part of those 2 people or those 4 people who have implemented it.
Correct.
And post that, if things are not happening, I think that is something which is beyond the control of a marketeer.
Just
Yeah,
a
please.
little provocative here. One of the things that you find, and this is a typical agency-client battle. At the end of the day, the fact is that performance teams within the client sides all pushed by ROI. That is the bottom line. That's how their KPIs are. It's not their fault.
Absolutely.
That's how the management looks at them and says that you've got to deliver a CPA or a CPC or a acquisition, and this is the cost, and that's it, period. So when it comes to things like brand safety, then the conversation starts becoming a little esoteric for them, because at the end of the day, that metric is not changing for them. And the first fear is always that if I start implementing solutions, is my cost of acquisition going to go up? Who's going to answer for that? That's a dichotomy that I feel that's why the number has moved from 2 to 4 and not from 2 to 10. Yep. How do you address that, Nachiket? I mean, how do you address that from a platform perspective? Because the truth is that it's not becoming an easier life for marketers. It's becoming a tougher time for marketers because their ROI expectations for management are only becoming more stringent.
Yeah, so to look at it in 2 ways, right? One is a brand maybe Siddesh is of the opinion that I don't care, right? I don't care whether my ad is placed against an adult content or a drug content or violence content, somebody killing somebody. I don't care, right? Fine, right? It's your brand, it's your policy, and ultimately, if all that you're looking for is that click and the conversion coming from anywhere doesn't matter, it's fine, right? And second thing is, somebody taking a stance like an Aditya Birla group, right, who has a reputation, and taking a policy saying that, hey, I don't want to be present on certain content. I don't want to be funding certain set of content that I don't want to, right? And I don't believe in as a company, right? That's on a very moral ground, right? And coming back to the ROI metric, as you rightly said, that whether my conversion cost will go up or go down. And we have seen in enough cases that it has only helped getting better conversions. And it's not only the last click, the number of leads, right? The conversions and the life cycle and what do you call it?
LTV.
Yeah.
LTV, yeah, right? That's getting better because obviously you're not only targeting the audience. So basic question: a GRP is a GRP is a GRP, or you want a GRP in a right prime time spot, reaching the right audience, or you want a GRP in a Asian Sky shop.
In fact, that's where the point is that whatever matrices you're trying to put or whatever verification you're trying to put, those will always add to bring value to you. So if I'm putting 100 rupees on an advertising campaign and if I'm trying to put 10 rupees more on tracking it properly, I think that will help me to improve the ROI further. So if everything is done properly at the end of the campaign or during that particular campaign at a particular period, I know what is performing good for me. And as I mentioned, if I am doing everything right, there's no doubt that or very less chances or negligible chances that I might go wrong with the targeting.
Correct.
But even after that, if there is something which is going wrong, I think as we just heard that there are certain set of places where technically also things are not in your control.
Yeah.
If somebody is trying to act like a Trojan horse, you can't control it. But just make sure that you doing those right set of things, you're having those right set of tools implemented, so that at any point of time, if anybody pulls up a finger on you or asks you a question, you have those set of things ready with you. So right from detecting that ad fraud to having that brand safe environment, I think that's where the point is. Apart from this, if you're not doing anything, then there's nobody who can save you.
Great. Another point that came up is measurement. So I have like 10 minutes to wrap this panel, but let's address measurement as quickly as we can. Anand, are there modern matrices of measurement? And he said about third-party measurement being there. Now, there is one third party that BARC or the audit bureau gives you. There is another third party that you are now implementing in the form of DoubleVerify and others who are actually giving you the digital output at the end of the day. So what's your overview on modern matrices of measurement that are being talked about in terms of digital?
So I think the only thing to measure really is impact on business here. That's the only thing that matters to businesses and clients. Nothing else matters. You may want to measure everything. Doesn't matter. Finally, the boardroom is only going to be interested in, you spend so much money, what's the impact on business? And I think with the deprecation of the cookie, what's going to happen is that we're going to go back to maybe traditional econometric models like MMM, but you'll see them in new avatars, right? So for example, with deep learning algorithms, you're being able to build multi-touch attribution measurement platforms, which are far more effective. We have moved away from what you call is traditional logistic regression to moving to more causal learning. But all of those are being attributed only to sales. Honestly, the conversation around brand safety, etc., doesn't come into play there at all. And I think eventually it's getting tougher for businesses to exist, right? If you look at the digital economy, there are so many brands in every single category competing for the dollar.
Correct.
So I think the way I see measurement, and I think that's the only meaningful way of measurement is, honestly, brand uplift studies, etc., I think have passed their time. You can do it to feel good, but honestly, what are they telling you as a business? I think as more dollars go on digital, one will have to move to more holistic measurement like MTAs, which attribute to sales or business outcomes.
Correct.
Is it easy? No, it's not. Because in many organizations, the marketing KPI is not necessarily a business KPI. It could be driving brand consideration or a metric which is tracked by a brand health study. It's still done in many, and it's not necessarily sales. But I think that acceleration of moving more and more marketing towards business outcomes will happen in traditional organizations as well, not just digital first organizations. And that's why I think looking at holistic measurement like multi-touch attribution is potentially the way I think all measurement should look at it. That's what matters finally to the shareholder and to the board.
But is that a reality right now? I mean, in terms of
Well, I think obviously it's not a reality. Yeah? The truth is that it's far away from that. But I think that if you look at across the world, the pressure on businesses is so immense that boardrooms are becoming more and more accountable for spends. And if marketing teams are going to be made more accountable for spends, the only way for marketeers to be able to justify spends for their key stakeholders is to show attribution to sales. It's going to happen, and it will take time. Obviously, in let's look at the startup economy. In the startup company, nobody talks about brand metrics. Nobody cares about brand metrics. The only thing they care about is acquisition, engagement, conversions, ARPUs. That's all. And I think while some may look at it myopically and say, is that the right way to go? You have to build a brand, etc. But finally, at the end of the day, there are investors. There is return on investment. You have to. Without that, you will not get money for your next level of growth. And I think a lot of the so-called traditional companies are also doing a lot of that today, right? And I will see a lot more of it. It won't happen in one go, but I think eventually that's where the majority of the market will move to.
But in long run, do you believe that that's the right way to measure the impact, or brand value eventually will make a play? Because if you want to sustain your brand, say 10, 15 to 20 years down the line, there is only so much that you can do at the bottom funnel, right?
Do something to the bottom of the funnel. That's your mistake. Don't get me wrong. When I'm talking about multi-touch attribution, it has nothing to do with bottom of the funnel. It has to do with all your marketing spend.
Correct.
So now I think that debate of brand versus performance hopefully is no longer debated among us, all of us. We know there's massive value for brand spends. We know that 60-40, 70-30, whatever that ratio is where you need to land. And that's why when you look at MTA, you're looking at a holistic way of looking at every single input into marketing.
Correct. Throw this to Francis. I mean, is there a debate, brand versus performance? Are you cutting down on your branding and putting more money in your performance?
How much is it attributing to sales?
Correct.
And all about this whole thing about the brand being important. Yes, it is important, but who says that marketing is the only way that your brand is basically being seen, right? Your product, your delivery, your service. I mean, I think all those things matter much more than how much reach and impressions you've got, or how much your BLS survey shows you, right? So in some sense, the key element here is while you have a purchase funnel and you have a sort of customer buying journey, especially for products like insurance. It's not like an instant, okay, I saw it and I bought it, right? And you will have metrics which will tell you how you have moved the customer gradually down the funnel. But attributing that to obviously the end of the funnel, which is sales, will become more and more supremely important.
Correct.
Partners who will come to you and say that, okay, we can help you in a way which we basically kind of own the outcome rather than own something else in between. Those will obviously be welcome. This is especially true for organizations where sales and marketing are more entwined, other than where they are placed separately together.
Great. Vinod, your take on the modern matrices of measurement that we talk about.
I think it actually will. So there is no right or a wrong answer on measurement. It actually depends on what is the objective for that particular campaign, for that particular client, for that particular moment. If it's moving brand metrics, sure, there are many measurement studies, but it's better to, I think someone spoke about, I think Nachi spoke about that, it's better to do it from a third party rather than asking the platforms to do it, because you can't have the umpire and the player from the same team. It's so much more better to have a neutral thing, whether your BLS study or whatever happens. If it's performance, I think completely ROI. We've got marketeers in this room which knows that, okay, this is the kind of advertising dollars I'm going to invest, and that's the kind of ROI. I would just like to actually add in one of the points which Anand was mentioning earlier, was, when you add third-party costs, your cost of media becomes that much more higher, and that is true. But at the end of the day, coming back to measurement on ROI, if I add the third party cost, maybe my CPC or CPL can become higher, but my conversions would be that much more effective because my quality would be that much more effective because I'm talking about quality inventory, quality impressions. And so I guess the other thing which is going to happen is the full funnel measurement, right? The MMN model is definitely going to happen because we can't be talking about there would be a branding matrix, there would be a performance matrix. Well, that is very tactical when you do campaign to campaign.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about measurement, whether X amount of monies gave me so much amount of sales, you'll have to measure every single thing which you did.
Correct.
It's not only digital, it's the complete advertising or marketing which you're talking about, which influences your brand matrix in every single point, right? So I guess these are things which are going to evolve. And I would just leave it at that.
Great. Jigesh, from the point of view of a client, you want to take what Vinod just said?
So on that note, the way Anand started, it's all about business. Wherever you go, you call it sales, you call it visits, or you call it conversions. Whatever, it's all about how do you derive business out of it. For me, the point will be how do you take a call of quality versus quantity, and what's important for you. If you want a lot of people to come over to your place and finally derive business out of it, or you want that maybe 10 people coming on to your destination and get that equal amount of business coming to you on a long term point. So hence that's the more important point where you go, and the companies and clients or marketeers rather should invest or think about more where do you want to invest in. And for my personal belief, it will be about quality rather quantity. Get the right audience because like Chintan said, LTV matters, and you need to think about that. Get those do the right targeting, right placement, right media, or whichever that is, and get the quality audience in. And that's more important than going all out. Whatever we have spoken about, for the last 1 hour about brand safety, targeting, everything is it's boiling down to that getting the right audience. And like Francis said, and I clearly I totally agree with you. It's not about marketers, not about the brand. It's all other parameters that you beat it, packaging, beat it, distributor, your sales, your point of sale, creative. Everything matters to get that quality audience in.
Correct. Fantastic rep to measurement. Nachikeet, Jayat, you want to add something on the topic of measurement?
I think what I'll just like to say is that quality of impression is important irrespective of branding or performance, right? Even if you're chasing a lead gen campaign or if you're looking at visits, the quality of impression you're buying becomes important whether it's for branding or for performance. What's more important is that you should have a unified definition of measurement today. If you're talking to someone like a YouTube or a Facebook, or be it a OTT platform or any supply partner, each of them have their own definitions. So it becomes very difficult to then measure it in a unified manner. And lastly, when we talk about business outcomes and how much it helps in ROI, I think we need to understand what is the cost of using it versus the cost of not using it. How much of damage it can do if you do not have it in place versus having it in place. So I think that's something that we've seen our clients even tell us that one impression in the wrong place can have a huge impact on the overall strategy. We park a lot of time when we are in the planning stage, so we need to park enough and more time also in measuring it, what the final outcome is.
Great. So this is the last question from my end, and then we'll wrap this session. Let's summarize 2022 from the lenses of consumers, attention span, and give me one trend about 2023 that you think will actually influence the attention span. Just quick answers on one trend of 2022 that when it comes to consumer attention span, and 2023, what's that you are excited about? Come on, Vishan.
So I think the one trend that has pretty much existed this year and maybe a little bit last 2-3 years is I think the shorter the video, which is a lot of your short format video content, I think will continue to stay. The way consumers use it, the way brands and platforms are pushing it, just from a media execution and consumption lens, I think that will continue to stay. What I do see a lot of next year is I think a little bit more around conversational commerce, because I feel like more and more brands will try and find ways to optimize, like he was mentioning how he's not picked up the phone in very long. That's actually very true, because you will try and find more cost-effective ways in your larger marketing chain to improve that. I think that's one. And second, consumers. I think the more they move towards it, I think the more it will expand.
So I think, yeah, consumer, I think the attention is gone to crap. I think consumers are like a goldfish on Instagram, and attention spans are coming down like significantly, right? And eyes on screen during ad breaks or when ads are being shown is a massive issue. Right? We all know that we watch TV with the mobile phone in our hand and we're just doing multiple things and we don't look at the television when an ad is. We know it intuitively. So I think eyes on screen, to my mind, is something that has really deteriorated significantly in the last year. I think, and I'm going to take a punt here, I think in a world where people are not listening to their screen, I think there is a massive role for audio branding.
Okay.
Potentially audio branding can maybe in a way bring back attention when a customer is not looking at the screen, right? So it's an old concept, but I think in a world where you're not even looking at the screen, audio branding potentially has an interesting opportunity.
Great, Vinod.
I think 2022, I guess, I think it was content. People's attention span, we all understand multitasking. We don't have that much of time. So I think it was predominantly for content. I think 23 would be, I would like to say that it will be social into commerce or conversational into commerce, but there will definitely be platforms which I know of are building those products, which is currently the micro influencers or what we talk about, not the cat A, cat B influencers, but your influencers which are your town, tier 2, tier 3. Tomorrow, if they can actually, instead of only shooting a video, but you can actually click and you can buy, that is something which is definitely going to increase. And of course, I guess the other thing is content as well into commerce. You're watching something, you can click that ad and you can buy. So these things are something which is definitely going to happen, and it might start in certain categories which are absolutely there to be done, but it will expand and expand fast.
Great points. Prasad.
2022, according to me, was all about the explosion of content across platforms and all type of content. Like I have seen on YouTube, some cat is jumping on one table to another table. Even that kind of content has got 1 million views, correct? People are watching anything and everything which is available right now across platforms, correct? I think somewhere this content overload will catch up with the customers and they might slow down a bit and they might move towards preferred content on preferred platform rather than any content on any platform. I think that shift, I don't know whether 2023 would be the year where that will happen, but surely that will happen. Somewhere customers will ensure that okay, they are watching what is worth watching rather than just watching, because that's what is currently happening across all the platforms.
Absolutely.
We all are saying that okay, the wires are getting cut for DTH players, operators. 2023 might be a scenario, or maybe 2024, where some people might come back. Because again, I mentioned at the start of the conversation that I have recently started exploring all those things. OTT platform, when it comes, then today I see something on OTT, if I ever plan to see something on OTT platform, the first 15-20 minutes I just browse what am I supposed to watch. And after 20 minutes I simply say, okay, I don't want to watch anything because I want to sleep now. Correct? Whatever time I was supposed to watch, I have spent in just browsing the content rather than watching the content. I might move back to a scenario where it is structured appointment-based content available on television at a fixed time. I might go back to that.
Go back to appointment viewing. Yogi, in your recommendations engine are under pressure.
I'm just disappointed by this, but I think content discoverability is a major issue in OTT, and that I understand.
Give me a trend of 2022 and an excitement
how I
about
see is 2022, the trend was all about making you awake so that we take your maximum screen time and we don't let you sleep, because that's the main thing. Your content, we just throw good content. Another thing, if you sleep, then I mean, before you sleep, whom are you watching first?
Correct.
Take the maximum screen time, that is 2022. Where I see 2023 is more about, I think, what I was hearing about ChatGPT and how things are getting automated and how the third party will now start controlling that answers. Because right now you guys were controlling something which is available online, but now something which is automating the entire chat history and making sure that it actually picks up everything. 2023 and 2024 would be about how AI will be taking over the entire human race in that way.
Whoa.
Oh my God, Francis.
I was just trying to see Prasad.
I think 2022, I mean, nobody can argue with just the explosion of content, right?
Yeah.
Different formats, niche content across very specific genres. You have now streaming content, which stream only documentaries, for example.
Yeah.
You have all sorts of formats, right? Right from very small short format to medium format to long formats to even you saw people coming back to the theaters to watch, it's like sort of revenge back from, pandemic, come and let's watch a 3-hour movie, right? So all that happened, right? I think with 2023, key element that I see happening is people kind of finding much smaller micro segments. When people used to speak about segmentation, you say 5, 8, 10 segments, right? Today, even brands have started saying, okay, segments of 100, segments of 200, segments of 300, or rather 300 segments simultaneously. So much higher segmentation, much better recommendation. You're more likely to watch something because your friend forwarded it to you on WhatsApp rather than browse it on Insta or YouTube Shorts or something.
Correct.
So you'll have much more recommendation based pieces. Now recommendation can be AI based in terms of, okay, people who watch this also watch this, but it'll also be a lot of people based recommendations, right? And people will start saying, okay, because I follow an influencer and he pointed me to something, I'll watch that, or my friend pointed me to something, I'll watch that. So there'll be a lot more segmentation, a lot more recommendation based mind share. I think that's
Great. Yogesh.
So for me, it's all about digitizing your brands, where the new trend which is going to come up, content, AI, discoverability, it's all about that. How do you make that tangible physical brand on the digital world? And that's the reason I believe now brands, things like metaverse, NFT, AR, all that is coming up, because how do you make that physical product digitally tangible to the end consumer? And that's the new trend which is going to come up. It's all about be it let's say a chatbot, virtual influencers, all that eventually is about getting that brand on the mobile phone. It's there in terms of content, video, banners, websites, but how do you make it more tangible to them virtually?
Correct.
That's going to be the new trend.
Correct. Chintan.
Yeah, see, I think 2022 has been the year where I think machine have learned a lot more what humans can do. 2023 will be mainly application of that. So generative AI is something that I'm very bullish on, like, where you give certain set of input to the system, and then it generates the content, copies, characters, content, everything, is going to be very, very interesting space. Specifically the reason I'm actually very bullish is that the human, we have limitations in terms of creating content, right? But machines have virtually no limitations. So it can try a 10,000 copies in the matter of few seconds, where it's possible for human to generate that many copies. So I think that space, generative AI, is something that I'm very bullish on. Yeah.
Great. Ashok.
So for 2022, I would say the snackable content would be one, like short videos, because it's
Correct.
instant entertainment. You don't have to really look for what you need to watch. You just keep scrolling up. Yeah, that probably would be one consumer trend that I would say definitely we observed. Moving forward in 2023, things to maybe watch out for will be, I think Vinod mentioned about social commerce, or maybe influencer marketing. It will continue to grow, and also the live e-commerce. Like how people will probably now, influencer will actually make you buy while you're watching their feed real time. Perhaps could be something to really watch that space for it in times to come.
Yeah, C5 I think already does it, right? You can touch on the product and actually buy it.
But it's actually live streaming, and you
in live streaming
to show the product and buy it, like how as seen on TV.
WeChat.
WeChat, yeah.
WeChat influencers in China.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Great. Siddesh.
I think one thing which is very sure that the attention span is going down of the user. And this is something which even I have noticed in me. Like watching a movie in a theater, sometimes when the song comes in, I'm like, skip karo isko. If I have that option of skipping it, because right now, whenever we are watching anything on any devices, we tend to skip what we don't want.
Double tap and 10 seconds gone.
Ha. So that is something which is happening. With 23 and 5G around the corner, I think expectations are very high. The user has a very high expectations from us and everything. Metaverse, which everybody is talking about, if 5G comes in and we have that kind of a speeds in our mobile phone, that might really pick up.
Correct.
Because that's one thing which or speed or the experience that people require in a metaverse at this point of time, that's something which is missing. But if we have that kind of a infrastructure which is getting developed, I think virtual world is gonna kick in next.
Great. Great. Good. Jayati.
I think with 2022, we've seen a lot of users move from offline to online. So, of course, exposure has increased. Now, 2023 should be all about engagement. Once you've got those users on the platform, how do you engage them? How do you keep them engaged on your platform and you ensure they don't move and shift from there? Because we know that brand loyalty has taken a massive setback. So, it's the shift from exposure to engagement.
Great. Nachiket.
There are 11 trends already we spoke about. The world will change if everything will happen. But yeah, I mean, taking cue from content consumption, right, has exponentially gone. And taking Prasad's point, you spend half an hour discovering the content and then eventually shutting it down and not watching anything. So I think contextualizing the content will gain prominence with the help of AI, ML. And which will lead to perhaps better personalization in terms of content delivery across platforms, right? And that's from consumer perspective. Also for advertisers, that perhaps going to be an alternative when cookie deprecates, because you have now better contextualization in terms of the content that's available. So how you reach to the right audiences in the right content at the right time will maybe another making life easier for brands to kind of.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. It was fun 90 minutes. We have another fun 90 minutes later at 12:30, and I hope a good team win today. But really, really grateful to you all for your time. From DoubleVerify and ET Brand Equity, thank you very much.